phase 2 of the thing that we've been talking about ever since, believe it or not, Vistalpina. That was part of the agreement on them. This came out after in discussions with Gulf Coast Growth Ventures. So these are the things that we're doing and that we need. Refinery Road needs, everybody who comes through here that's 1,000 scans. You take a look at a VVAP, and I was on carrier, so we have VVAPs everywhere. But it's one thing to say, okay, instead of boiling it, at 212 or 100 degrees Celsius, we're going to ...221 graduates. One of their problems that they had in early going was that companies would come in and pick up their students before they graduated. And so it actually hurt their graduation rate and graduation numbers. So what they did was they got agreements, and we're still a small town. They got agreements from these industry folks to hire them, and that's okay, but let them graduate. And so, do some more schoolwork. So, next slide, please.
Question, please, Mr. Tamez.
Sir?
Michael, I was fortunate to attend that ceremony.
All right.
And I'd like to let the board know that the President, Marcus Camilla, acknowledged the Type A board highly. So that's what we like to see whenever we help funding to any event that we got going. So, yeah, it was very nice to be recognized.
And not only that, when you go to these places, wherever we talk about, you'll see a plaque that discusses, that just says that this was built partially with Type A funds for this one, USO, Type B, which brings us to USO. USO has a $250,000 approved by this board. Thank you very much. They're getting ready to open it up. They are in compliance. They've submitted all of the paperwork to me, and I've done the compliance on them. I've submitted it to the city for payment. They're going to have it this Thursday, and it's just amazing what they have, amazing how many people they service. They service all branches of the military and the Coast Guard, so that's nice. But and they've done all their stuff. They've done. You can see the infrastructure's $582,000, and they've retained the 2 and created the 1. Next slide, please. All right, new sports company. So we're talking about the soccer fields. So the soccer fields started. COVID happened. There were some financing. Remember, they had to have it in 90 days. You did an amendment. Thank you very much, and they complied with that. They waited for the farmer to take his sorghum off, and he did that, and so they leveled it. One of the things they did find, they've been trying to buy 4 acres on the side of it so that they can use that for a parking lot instead of having people trying to get across Old Brownsville Road. They've closed on that, and so now they are working with. They're in meetings with Development Services to get their permits to start, and so they believe they'll be done by the end of the year, and they'll still be on track to finish, to complete as they do. All right, next slide, please. International Consulting Engineers, ICE. You forget that companies like this exist in our community.
Sorry, Mike, 1 second. If you can, please tell the owner of the new sports that we really appreciate that he took our comments to heart about our concerns about the parking, and that he went above and beyond and bought additional acreage to alleviate that issue. So
I will.
Send our thanks.
So now we have ICE, and it's impressive for ICE. You forget that there are people that companies like this exist. In our community, they just quietly create jobs, quietly do a lot of things, get contracts. their contracts are mostly with Homeland Security and things like that, border walls and other things that retention. So it's not here. 84% of their business is outside of our area. And, all that money comes back here and it comes in. The owners are here, everything. So they're great. They are going to, they have one more here, which is $25,000 a year. They have one more year and then next year. Next slide, please. All right, Texas A&M Industrial and Civil, they're knocking stuff out. You can see they're about halfway there. It got kind of crazy, we were getting invoices, and so finally I had them list each lab and what the equipment was for, which helped out a lot. So now I can do compliance toward those buckets, and they're coming along. They have people in the curriculum and in pre-engineering. I'm not really sure what that is, but I'm sure they're lacking something, so they have to do that. When I started aerospace.
Mike, got a question, Mr. Harris?
Yeah, Mike, can you go back to ICE?
Sure.
Go back one slide.
There we go.
In their original agreement, they were supposed to create a certain number
Yes,
of
sir.
jobs here locally, have a certain, raise their employment numbers
Yes.
from some point to.
Yes. It was,
And have they met that mark?
yes, they have. Every year they made more than that mark. Not only that, they
And
did
these are local
local jobs that
engineers
are here. Yes, sir.
or just jobs? Well,
They're here. They
Okay.
had to be here. Yeah.
okay. Yeah, I know it's a challenge to hire
Oh,
engineers in Corpus Christi. So these folks are basically hiring all of our engineers now.
I don't know. They have, they're not all engineers either, right? They're
Okay.
draftsmen, they're landmen, they're, whatever else you need on a job.
How often are they audited? How
Once a
often do you
year.
check on them?
Once a year. Now,
Okay.
they had one where they had to complete the building, but because of COVID, they didn't, and we had
An extension, yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And they finished on time. They finished within the extension. So, no, I check them every year.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Sir. Next slide, please. All right, so remember we have a civil and industrial as part of their curriculum. They've added both, and they're all in work. And any questions? Yes, sir.
Can you turn your mic on, please?
To Mr. Harris's point, I just want to make sure folks understand that you audit every contract. You're our compliance guy. It's not specifically at ICE. He's not picking on ICE. He just wants to make sure that you're auditing the jobs that they're supposed to create, just like everything else that we fund.
No, that's correct. And what I do is on the ones that are here, we go to the TWC reports to make sure that the addresses are here, that they're not, they hired somebody, in Houston and they work remotely. No, they can do that if they want. That doesn't count toward one of the jobs that they need to create. Okay. So yes, all of them are looked at whatever interval it calls for. In this case, it's annual.
Okay, I just want to clarify that. Thank you.
All right, sir. All right, so A&M, Industrial and Civil, any questions? So one of the things you'll see, and you'll get an invite, I'm sure, is number one, you'll see this is Type A. If you don't remember, you'll see that part of this is funded and partial by Type A, but also, once you start getting into the civil and industrial, you get to start breaking stuff. It's actually pretty cool. They bend iron, they break iron. It sounds like a gunshot going off. They crush wood. They show that concrete is good in compression, but not in torsion. So things like that. It's a pretty cool lab. Next slide, please. La Vista Point. Now they call it the Lighthouse. If you look, they are renting and people are moving in. The requirements are that they have to spend more than $625,000 infrastructure, and they already have. I do compliance on those. Even though they're not complete, there is an annual report that keeps going. So, we don't just lose track of people. Just like the botanical gardens, I've been looking at them once a year. So they've already done that. They need COOs on all the buildings, and they have them all but two, which is building one, which is, if you take a look right now, if you've been driving from Portland, you'll see the chapel, the lighthouse, the restaurant, and building one. Those are the only ones that they need. They actually only need a COO to complete it on building one and the lighthouse. So we'll see that. They've already hired the 8 people, for maintenance, for in the sales office and things like that. Once they bring, of course, the restaurant online, there'll be 25 people. But, that just means that they'll get more. But they can't get it until they finish all of those. And like I said, I've been looking at them every year, and I've been in discussions with city legal about a couple of points. But they're moving along. Kind of iconic lighthouse. And you can't put a light in there because, you don't want pilots flying into it, landing on 181. Any questions? Next slide. All right, so let me talk now. Now we're going to get into the small business assistance. We've really pushed hard, and I know that we've pushed really hard, almost too hard, about small business assistance from the EDC because it's been so important in 20 and 21. Not everybody, we survive, we believe that. One of the things we were doing when we were traveling from type A to type B was we only had so much money in type A, and we wanted to do stuff for Whataburger Field. So we just kind of stuck Lift Fund, which had asked for $100,000, down to $49,300. So it worked. The budget worked. And they were not doing well at the time anyway. Not because people weren't looking for loans, but there was a lot of government assistance at the time. And so they've used almost all of that already. But I know I have 11,000, but I've gotten a couple of ones that take them up right up to 49.3. But again, they've been using the government, prioritizing, as they say, government loans. So they've asked for, and I would certainly, and I will make a recommendation to the thing, when the budget comes, that they get back up to 100,000. And you can see a lot of things are moving along. I'm sure the banks are seeing small businesses, try to push out and try to grow again, as they've contracted, and this is some of the things they need. Next slide, please. Now them and Service and Service Corps retired executives are fiscal year, city fiscal year, so October to September. All right.
Quick question, Mr. Carlson.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Olivar?
Yeah, I just, when y'all come back, I saw the may need more money, or even when it's time to begin talking about next year. What I don't ever get a sense of is what these small businesses are. I don't remember much discussion on that by Del Mar. So I think it might be good if we got a little bit of,
Sure.
Here's some examples of the type of
Okay.
businesses that we've funded and what we've,
Yeah.
what for.
Yeah, I can do that.
And kind of the same with SCORE. I mean, what are we really doing with this money? So
Okay.
Michael, Laura used to come and tell us about SCORE.
We can bring her on.
Yeah.
Okay. I imagine the budget's coming up next month after, next month. So maybe we can bring some people in and talk with you. Just so you know, I do compliance on these. And so one of the things we do is, number one, when they have a loan application, I go through, I run DMBs on them, I run, certificates on in the state of Texas, Texas Secretary of State. But also, I grab Lori, throw her in the Tacoma and take off, and we visit each one. And some of them are just impressive. People, carving out a niche. We were at an auto body shop, and one of the things he used was looks like the rack. I mean, you can put a whole car on it and push and pull to straighten out the frame so that you can use it again and not total it. It's pretty impressive, but we will do that. Again, for SCORE, Service Corps of our retired executives, they take theirs, and what they're doing is doing lessons, essentially marketing plans, marketing lessons for small business owners. We did one a while back, Fast Track program, where we had CEOs come in, and it took over 6 weeks, and it was a lot of work, and it just wasn't, small business owners don't have that time to go and do, but they can do a lunch and learn. They can do a lunch and learn, and they go through these. I attend 3 or 4 of these a year, and they talk about marketing. The holidays are coming up. Here's how you market. Somebody gave you an email, so you're cleared for the ridiculous. You can use that email for anything until they say stop. They're pretty much on track. They've used 29,000, no use 40. They've handled 793 cases. Now, these are unduplicated people, okay? This is how much, 700 unduplicated people. If you take a look, there used to be this great database in the state of Texas called Socrates, and you could download and find every company that's in the Texas Secretary of State, how big they are. Corpus Christi had like, 9,000, and 8,000 were small businesses, and they were, okay, the definition of small business is not less than 50, but if you read any legislation, it says this complies to people who are under 50, so, but they won't say that that's it, because you can be a steel plant and have 500 people. But these are, and of the 8,000, a lot of them, 7,000 are people that have opened up small businesses but didn't do it. My wife, for example, a retired college professor, she has one where she writes textbooks, but she doesn't do it anymore. And even when she had it, she wasn't an employee. She was working for Texas A&M Corpus. So, but they're touching 793 people. They held 31 workshops. It expires at 22, and then we'll try to go again. Next slide, please. So let me just talk about an intern. You can see this time I wanted to help you out a little bit and throw up, the companies that they're looking at, that they're going with. With the grants, has been a little slow. Remember, now this is calendar year. So you can see they're off to a slow start. They actually they're low on companies and low on hours. So, but they're building up through that. They hope during the summer and, of course, during the fall that they will be there again. Next slide. Now, A&M has a different process. Now, remember, you as a small business, Mr. Gio, you would probably pick somebody out of Del Mar because you could use them in just a little bit. But you, Mr. Harris, would pick one out of A&M because, they're engineering and you can use them. So A&M has interns, and they have companies, but they don't necessarily have the hours. Now, they hadn't had the grants paid, but they're sitting around 27 right now because I have the invoices from the time, I have to turn this in like a month before. So, but they have invoices sitting out there, so they'll be fine.
Question, Mr. Valls?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Mike, can you go back one slide, please? I want to see the...
Yeah, go back. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, right here on the Del Mar intern. I know that, both of these programs can be challenging, to find the interns, to get the word out there to employers, and typically they're small businesses. But on this one, we've got $95,000 remaining, and this expires at the end of the year. What are you going to be coming to the board with next go around to refund this program? Are you going to bring it down more in alignment with what we're actually spending?
I think we need to, unless they really knock it out of the park in the summer or fall. I think you're gonna go down to 75 or something like that. We'll see where it is. Again, it wasn't like 2021 was the comeback year where everybody was fully employed. I still think there's room. If they end at 85 or 90, I'd be okay with 100 again. Of course, it's your decision.
Well, but you look at the next one also.
I really think, and
How does a business go about getting in this program to hire interns?
okay, so we advertise this program through the chamber helps us, but Small Business Development Center, SCORE sends people toward here, Lift Fund sends people toward here. They call up either Del Mar or A&M or me. I get calls, and then go through essentially, what are you looking for? What kind of person, whether it's a 4-year, 2-year, and then I send them to either Leslie, Dr. Leslie Mills at A&M, or now Del Mar used to have Beverly Cage in student something, and now it's moved over to the SBDC.
So all businesses in the Corpus Christi area can.
That is correct.
Can participate. All they have to do is inquire about it.
Correct, but what we're looking for is small business, right? So, I don't need
What's that definition?
And doesn't it have to be in their area of study?
right, and it has to be an area study. And that gets ugly every now and then, because I call up and talk to these and find out what their duties are. If their duties aren't what I think it is, then it ends, and it's never nice.
So during tax season, I could have hired a bunch of these folks to
No.
do a bunch of work.
No, not you. Finish my thought process here. So, the Del Mar program, we've got 100,000, and in the A&M program, we've got 100,000. So,
Right.
For the 200,000, we're tying up a lot of that money.
Yes, sir.
And if it's not being utilized to the extent that we would like it to be utilized, it's working. And it's not working to that level. I mean, this is a great program, and I can appreciate, helping some of these interns. And it's not so much the pay, it's the experience that they're going to get.
Certainly.
But if we're tying up 200 grand, but yet we're only paying 5, I mean, we got to put that money to work somewhere else.
No, I agree. I understand.
Okay, so I don't know how this works. Heather, you might know, when they come before us again, budget time, or I don't know how that process completely works. I want us to really fine tune that number, because that money's just hanging out there, and that's an opportunity that we can't fund another program.
Understand.
So, and it's no offense to the Del Mar intern program or the A&M program. I know both programs, come before us and they make their pitch, and we're happy to fund them. But we have to be realistic also in how this money is being utilized or not being utilized, because there's an opportunity cost of just having that money sit there.
I understand.
So,
and we brought them down from 150, 2 years
Right.
ago.
Right. So, really, I'm going to look to you and Heather to really get us more in alignment with what those numbers should be.
Understand.
Okay?
Mr.
Thank
Temez?
you.
As you know, Mike, the board had been giving Del Mar and A&M 150,000.
Yes,
For
sir.
a few years. I mean, I'm talking about for 6, 7, 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then we got hit by COVID-19, so it affected the job employment here and there and everywhere.
Right.
So we made an adjustment to 100,000, right? So
Right.
now it's still affecting it somehow, so, yeah, they might ask for
We'll take it.
75,000.
If they rebound strong in the fall, I mean, we could look at that. But if they don't, then obviously we need to make a move.
So we should just wait to see what happens up to the fall and then make the adjustment then.
Aye, sir.
Yeah, we can cut back anytime.
Question, Ms. Summers?
Yes, we had talked about a while back, seeing if there was a way to use these types of funds for some of the trade type schools and help fund the internships with those programs. Have we made any headway through that?
No, we have not. We've looked at it, and we just could not make it work through the statute. I can let.
Yeah, so it's a state law issue. The state law allows us to fund job training through a 2 or 4 year college, but not through other entities because we have a junior college district.
And does it have to be a 2 or 4 year college
Yeah.
that's located in the city?
It doesn't specifically say it has to be located in the city, but it does have to be a 2 or 4 year college.
So if there was a company that was needing interns with, that was a business that wasn't a field of study at Del Mar or Texas A&M, could we come up with a program where those similar funds could be used for something like that, for an internship?
Potentially, we'd have to look at it, like if it was like in Kingsville or somewhere where they could still come, the internships would have to be here.
Right. But, I mean, I know we've had an intern from architecture in San Antonio. We had to, bring them here.
Or if they're going to like remote college, I know there's some kids that live here that are doing remote right now.
Right.
In other areas, so something like that, potentially.
But that's not a program that's at A&M or
Right.
Del Mar.
But the
and-
program would have to be through a 2 or 4 year college.
Okay. But I think that would help businesses attract interns that weren't just in the specific fields of study.
It's just harder to get a program that could actually get enough people when the college isn't here. So that's why we've done Del Mar and A&M all this time.
Okay.
Didn't I see Del Mar starting a construction?
That's what I was wondering. Why can't
Wait a-
Del Mar start something like that?
Yeah. We can certainly add that in.
It certainly would help. I mean, I think anything that could help broaden that trade base here, it certainly would also help the cost of housing to have a wider trade base. Right now, it's so narrow. I mean,
Ms. Olivar, you had a question?
Yeah, I was going to follow up. I mean, it seems like Del Mar's the solution to get a program in construction trades, just because it's a big thing for everybody right now to find folks, including heavy construction. I don't know why they don't.
When we were doing that, when we were doing the one with industry, Dr. Escamilla put a slide up, and it said construction, and he meant housing construction, but I don't know if he meant that's in place, that's going to be in place this year, or that's a future program, but I will reach out and find out.
yeah, I mean,
And
if it was a
is,
carpentry program, I mean, that certainly could help. Plumbing, electricians, all of that. I mean, those are high in demand jobs.
Yeah, we've really run into something with plumbers and electricians because it takes so long. And the funny thing to me is that it's 8,000 hours for an electrician, but 10,000 for a plumber. So, one guy can kill you in a heartbeat. One guy can just, ruin your floors. But that's where we have the problem because, especially, I was talking to one of the electrical interns, whatever they're called. They actually don't start schooling for like the second or third year because they want to make sure that they're going to go to work on time, pass a drug test, be all that stuff, and then so they don't even start school until the second or third year of their internship or apprenticeship. There we go. I'm sorry.
Another thought on it is that the program has to run through Del Mar or A&M. Like it has to run through a 2 or 4 year college. It doesn't mean that all the people involved in the training have to be students at that particular college. So if there was a program that wanted to say partner with Del Mar and Del Mar was on board, we could do something like that too.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest issue is a lot of those tradesmen, they do compete with the plants.
I understand.
And so it's hard to attract interns or apprentices for those types of industry. And so it just continues to affect the housing market here. And I know that's a big issue with trying to draw new businesses is the cost of living here as well. So it is a compounding problem.
Question, Mr. Harris?
No, wait, can I ask my actual question? Yes. Okay, my actual question was, when you say hourly wage paid by the business, is that minimum wage plus 5?
That's correct.
Okay, so let me give you a little bit of experience that I had, and maybe it'll be enlightening for the board. So right now, even an intern is probably looking at wanting to make more than $13 an hour. I mean, that's the reality of the whole thing. And I know at one point I'd been approached by A&M, and this is kind of good news, and they were trying to get me to hire somebody through their intern program, and we looked at it, and I wanted to pay $15 an hour back then anyway, but the paperwork was not really worthwhile. So I think what you sometimes see is some businesses find out about the intern program through this, but then they just end up doing the hiring themselves. And unless they're able to get 2 or 3 people, it's almost not worth it.
Administrative
You know what
part
I mean?
of it.
Yeah, it's just something to think about. So it may be almost kind of a advertising program that works in a strange way.
Mr. Harris?
So I'm pretty sure Del Mar has construction sciences or construction management. I've got a coworker who does adjunct professor who teaches classes here and there in construction management at Del Mar. So I'm pretty sure they have a program like that. I think Ms. Summers, what you were saying, just, Del Mar, we're funding things like process technology, STEM. We're really enforcing that. But then when it comes to the internships, where are the STEM-based internships? We've got car wash and salons, which are great, but I don't think we're focusing on that. And Del Mar is the leader in this community and putting those types of, taking the students from high school through their programs and spitting them out into the industry. So where are the internships there? So I think there's opportunity there that we're not seeing.
And we'll look at that. One of the things that we've, like I mentioned before on the process technology is industry's gobbling them up as opposed to taking them as an intern for a year or whatever. So, we certainly push all of those and we'll look at it again. Okay.
Moving on.
I have one last question.
Go ahead, Ms. Summers.
Do we know if Del Mar or Texas A&M, are they reaching out to the local associations to help push this program? Like if there is a construction sciences, certainly I would think, speaking with the executive officer of the Builders Association on trying to advertise these programs would be beneficial, just as an example. Because I think, to your point, it may sound like it's cumbersome, but also confusing. And so I think if there was some outreach by the colleges, that would certainly help.
Okay. I'll bring that up to him.
Question, Mr. Valls?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. Amy, if maybe you can do some research on, how much latitude we really have when you say has to be a college or a university. Perhaps maybe a partnership or an affiliation might satisfy that requirement? Because
I think it would. That's what we had looked at. We had a different program that had come through that was looking for funding at one point, and the suggestion was to partner with Del Mar, and then
Right.
I thought we could fund it, and that didn't end up working out. But I think that's an option, if, assuming the college and the person actually doing the training are interested in having a partnership.
Right, because what Ms. Summers is leading to, maybe some of those organizations, like the Builders Association, enters into a formal partnership with Del Mar, then does that satisfy the criteria, that affiliation? Because you can always route the money through the college, and then they
Right.
could
We-
move it down through the association or the
Right,
trade, or
we would pay
however.
Del Mar, and they would run the program however they want to run the program,
Right.
whether that's through a partner or through.
Well, Diana, that might be one other way to try and, skin that cat.
It's just, again, you'd have to approach Del Mar or A&M and see if they were on board. I think that might have been the issue the previous time. I'm not really sure.
Okay, thank you, appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. President.
All right.
Mr. Corpus, on this slide here, it says type A fund pays an extra $5 in addition to the hourly wage paid by the business. So getting back to Ms. Olivari's comment, so if I paid 10, it would add 5. It doesn't have to be minimum wage for the employer?
Correct. It matches the minimum wage, but yeah, you can pay whatever.
So
One of the problems, we used to double it. And then we got complaints from the small businesses that, I'm sitting there at $15.50 an hour, and when I hire them, I'm not paying them $15.50 an hour. So, that's one of the reasons we went down to 5. But yes, it matches the 7 and a quarter. I'm sorry, 7 and a quarter. Plus, they pay their side of FICA, and we pay our side of FICA. And then, so if the company did 20, it would be 25.
Okay.
Yeah.
That works.
But I mean, I'm saying in reality. That's fine.
Okay.
Mike, but the question is, how many people want to work right now? A lot of people don't want to work, so not even for $15 or $20 an hour.
That's a good point with the whole COVID and
Yeah, I don't want to get
unemployment benefits.
I don't want to get too far afield, but I really have a heartburn with the participation rate because of the gig economy. I mean, I believe that none of these people are. I bet if you ask the IRS, they would say that their 1099s are up 400%, and that's where those people are hiding. They're doing things here and there. Now, I do agree that, we had the big resignation, but now we have the big hire because people are coming back because they're like, wow, maybe I can't live off of that. But I really think the gig economy and younger workers now are, and I'll be honest, there's not something I could do. I am used to working for somebody and them paying me, so good on them. But I'd like to see that number. And it might even be more than 400%. It may be 1,000% for all I know. But I think that's where they're hiding. I don't, yeah. Yeah, so right now, the Dallas Fed put out our participation rate is somewhere around 62%. Don't get me wrong, I don't think 38% is in the gig economy, but I think it is not. I think it's more close to 68 or 69% is the participation. So, and that's a lot of people. So 175 million workers, and then 8% of that, that's 17 million people. So,
Okay, continue.
all right, here we go. I figured out I can do this by myself, so I won't bother the person in back. PTAC's always been, this great resource, and they've done well. They've helped 38 businesses, a contract of 30.1. You can see I use the continental type of punctuation there, but I really think that you need something like this to give people the ability. They go in there, they can find bids, they can qualify for them, and they can do forward. So I think they've really helped. Luckily, it sounds terrible in COVID, but people started taking courses, started asking for more things that you could do online, and that's what they have. So they have 14, they have 273 attendees, and things are going really, really well. So. The opposite side of that is, so PTAC's governmental, the opposite side is industrial. We are going through, where you're taking a look and you're saying 8 contracts, $500,000, that's not much. It's huge to small business. You talk about when somebody's making, their revenues total 800,000, 700,000. Even part of that is a huge amount of that. And you're going to get paid. You're not worried about not getting paid, if you do everything you're supposed to do. But, and of course you get paid 30 days late, but you always get paid 30 days late, so you really get screwed that first 30 days. After that, you're fine.
Question, Mr. Balls?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. Mike, here's another example of tying up that money. Can you go back one slide, please?
Certainly.
I didn't. So you had a total of $30.1 million in contracts. Is that pursued or was that granted?
Granted, those were awarded.
Say that again?
Awarded. Small businesses were awarded $30.1 million worth of contracts so far this year.
Okay, so how many small businesses received that 30 million?
38.
Is it the 38?
Yes, sir.
Okay, because that just says help 38. It doesn't say that
Oh, I'm
38 was
sorry. Yeah,
successful.
yes,
So,
sir.
okay, that's what threw me off. And then the next one, you helped 34, but only 8 contracts were awarded, totaling $500,000?
Right. And those were, helping 34 is not only do you help them go through the process, but you get them qualified. PTAC is a more mature, one that we go through. And the people have already gone through training and things like that. CRC, we're still working on trying to get people into the larger corporations, Refinery Row and across the
Okay.
bridge.
Of the 115 remaining, how much do you expect of that to be expended between now and the end of the year?
All of it.
All of it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And the same for PTAC also?
Yes, sir.
All of it? What's the timeline on this?
They're both December 20.
Say again?
December 31st is the end.
No.
Oh.
When did this start?
The program started, it
This is
started
from
January 1st.
This is from January 1?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. These are calendar years.
Okay.
Only
So
lift fund and score
You
of
expect
fiscal.
within the next 7 months, ballpark?
Yes. Right. Correct.
So in 4 months, you've spent 17,000, but in the next 6 or 7 months, you expect to spend all the 115?
Pretty much, yes, sir.
Okay. Help me get to that math.
Okay, so right now, what they've been doing, they can't spend anything until they get the grant. And so in the first couple of months, what they're doing is just paying for people to man the center and to help people that are currently there. Now, when they start their marketing is where we're really pushing, that's where you'll see larger chunks come out. And, in addition to payment of wages.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
How they get paid. That's what we're kind of, it's not a percentage of what
Oh, no. So both of them have have wages that go through where, they have somebody there every week, every month, and I go through them. I go through not only their timesheets, but 940s, 941s. I don't do 940s for these. And those are the wages. Then they have marketing things for SCORE, for example, their Lunch and Learn. They advertise on Channel 3. They advertise through the Caller. Same thing with CRC and PTAC, because they're all in one group. They go through and they advertise so that people know that the program's here, even though it's not enough. They have found, because the people that are looking for, that are best for PTAC and CRC are not new businesses that go through the SBDC, but they're mature businesses that have graduated out of the SBDC or never went to the SBDC, but they're out there working on their own. And so that's why we need the outreach to find them. Once we find them, we come in, and then, these are wages and supplies, and that's how that's how they do it. Yes. Right. Right, and then they have databases that that they're in for government contracting, for contracting from CRC that gets through there. We advertise through the AVC for some of these, to try to get through, and she helps us out quite a bit. She helps them out quite a bit. I'm just the guy who checks the numbers. These people are working diligently every day to help small businesses. I mean, if you just go over to the SBDC, and you can see how much they care.
So the success of these two programs is really measured in the amount of contracts that are awarded.
That is correct.
To other small businesses.
That's what I
The grants
believe.
are really funding the facilitating of those.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And this question, since you're the only presenter today, Mike, we're just.
Hey, I'm ready. I'm ready.
But this question may be more for Mr. Rodriguez or Heather. So we have time allocated on the public education channel for the city. So like the intern program or some of these other programs, do we have presentations that can be played through the city channel? Is that possible? To put out that word, especially the intern programs? I know, they'll have type A meeting and you'll turn it on and it's something to do with trash pickup. So can some of that time be allocated to our programs?
Yes,
we
sir.
did it at one point.
I believe we can. I think I've seen some type A, type B material on there before, so I think the answer is yes. We just have to look into it.
Well, get ready, Mike. You can do your presentations live in the City of Corpus Christi web channel, and that could help people.
Yeah. No, I agree, going through all of these and finding out what programs there actually exist. And the nice thing is it's not 30 or 40. There's 6 of them. They're easy to understand, where you can sit, where you can play, where you cannot, things like that. I'm just writing this down. All right, ready? Here we go. Now you have the Small Business Development Center. It's something that I think during COVID was, and I still think it is, one of the most important things that this board did. The state had cut back on funding of all SBDCs, and they were Del Mar was in danger of going down from 5 to 2 and a part-timer, and that helped them stay at 5. And I cannot imagine going through COVID with 2.3 counselors. So thank you very much. It's $150,000, and it's paid once a year. And that's it. I don't think we have questions because we've already done enough questions. But
I don't think we saved them to the end. So.
But do you have any questions? All right. So give you a heads up. The budget's coming up, so we can talk about these. If you want to, we can just set a time next time and just bring them all up and talk. All the small business ones I'm talking about, Lift Fund, SCORE, the intern programs, the.
Do we have a budget workshop set up, Heather? So maybe perhaps you could be part of that.
Yeah, we have time scheduled in both June and July that we'd present the proposed budget in June and then bring anything back for discussion in July. And at that point, make the recommendation to council.
So you'll present in June, which is next month?
Mm-hmm.
And then July, we could meet separately with a budget workshop before we approve the budget?
Yeah, normally what we do is, yeah, well, I mean, well, we don't normally, we haven't done, now we can if the board wants to do a separate meeting from our regular meeting as far as a workshop goes. But we normally have enough time allowed, I think, within our current footprint that we could bring people in to speak and that kind of stuff instead of doing
I'm
it.
just basing that on previous budgets where they've been presented, and we're like surprised.
Sure.
So I'm not sure, the board, what's your consensus? None at this moment?
I think, at least in my opinion, I think we want to help shape that budget.
Sure.
As opposed to, here's the budget.
Sure.
You know, because like what Lee was saying, if we have the workshop after we've been presented the budget, it gives us an opportunity to take it home or back to our office and study it and mark it up and then come back at a workshop and say, hey, I mean, for example, you know, we've got 2 programs here that take up $200,000 that aren't, it's not being spent.
Sure.
So, you know, maybe we trim those back. So I think for me, that's the part of the budget that's part of the budget process that I'd like to participate in.
Okay. Well, what we can do, with direction from the board, we can go ahead and schedule a separate time away from our normal meeting time.
Okay.
To do a more workshop format. I would say.
Can we do that within the regular meeting?
We can do that too, yes. I mean, that's what I was saying is that we can do, instead of scheduling a separate time, we could do it within our regular time frame. I thought I heard that they wanted additional time, so just provide direction on how you would like me to proceed.
Well, we don't have a time limit. So,
No.
you know, that's just one less day we have to come back up
Understood.
here and take time out of our regular
Sure.
schedules. So, I mean, I'm flexible, whatever the board wants to do. If they want to hold it on an alternate date, I'm okay with that.
I didn't know that if we had a workshop, it would be closed. It wouldn't have to be in an open forum.
Okay.
Is that
They all
possible?
have to be in an open forum.
No,
Okay.
it just wouldn't have to have public
They
comment
all have to be,
necessarily.
Okay. Well,
That would be the
there goes that
difference.
idea.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean the public doesn't get to participate in the workshop. So,
I'll poll and get back to you, Heather.
Okay, thank you.
Any,
well, why don't we do that now? That way we can know in advance.
are you all fine with just doing it,
Within the meeting?
which meeting?
July, you suggested July.
Well, why don't we?
We'll get it in June, say July, we'll get the budget information in
Okay.
June, give us time to review the information,
Sure.
and then July, we can make the workshop
Perfect.
prior to actually voting on it.
Exactly. Yeah. And then at that point, we can, in July, based off of our conversation from June, we could then bring in any organizations that you'd like to have a little bit more information from or anything like that. That would be good.
Okay.
In July.
In July.
Here, hold on.
Well, they'll present the budget in June, it's just presented, and then we'll review it, and then in July, we'll workshop it. Mr. Wilson, you had a comment?
Yeah, I was just thinking out loud. A lot of what we decide on the budget is going to be how much they're going to use this year. So the longer Mike has to gauge that, the better number we're going to get, to your point of having too much. So if we could do a presentation or something, but at least get to July, that way Mike might have a little better idea of where they're going to end up. Because some of those are on a calendar year.
Okay.
July.
Okay. So we'll come forward, so to clarify, we'll come forward with a proposed budget framework in June. By that time, we'll have some estimations on our revenues. And then in July, based off of the conversation that we have in June, then we'll bring back any additional information, any organizations you'd like to get more information from, along with discussion on anything that you would like to change or modify from the proposed budget in June.
Okay.
Okay?
Any executive director comments, Mr. Rodriguez? No comments. Okay. There being no further business, this meeting is adjourned, 2:37.